What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the top 10 diets I hear about all the time as a nutrition coach and that I see in popular media. I'm going to be going over the potential benefits of each diet, the potential consequences of each diet, what each diet is mostly used for, and how you should determine which diet you should choose for your own goals. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Ketosis is the first diet we're going to look at. You've probably heard of it. For keto, you want to consume a really high percentage of fats. So your total caloric intake is going to be 65 to 75% fat, 20 to 30% protein, and about 5% carbs. So very little carbs, and this is because you want your body to go into ketosis. So ketosis is defined as the natural metabolic state where your body produces ketones from fat. So basically you have no carbs in your system or very low carbs in your system, and your body instead uses fat to produce energy by making ketones from fat. So it's just an alternative fuel source, and quite literally this is what your body does when you're in starvation mode. It uses fat for fuel instead of carbs. So that's one of the cons of ketosis, but it has some pros as well. It is good for weight loss, and since you have still 20 to 30% of your calories from protein, you still have all of the protein that you need, which is ideal. And then the cons, again, starvation mode. So you will feel hungry. That's just a side effect of this. And then another con is you will need frequent blood testing to make sure that your blood markers are at a consistent level. This should be by either a nutritionist or a doctor or physician or somebody. But people who are undergoing ketosis definitely need to make sure that internally everything is healthy and they're not putting too much strain on their bodies by being in a constant state of starvation. Okay, at number 9, we have the Dubrow method, or commonly referred to as intermittent fasting. Basically, with intermittent fasting, you're going to be eating at a confined time in the day, maybe 8 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours, and then not eating at all in the starvation rest recovery period. It definitely has its benefits because it limits snacking and it teaches you how to control yourself with dietary impulses. You've probably heard of intermittent fasting before. A lot of famous people do it, and the data is actually inconclusive on whether or not it is superior for weight loss and fat loss. That's partly why unnecessarily restrictive is a con, because since it's not necessarily better for you, it's not necessarily the best thing you need to be doing. And the other issue, especially with the Dubrow method of intermittent fasting, is that it's focused entirely on appearance. The Dubrow technique is made by 2 reality TV show stars, so it's more of a vanity appearance. And with a diet focused on vanity, you get sucked into a bunch of negative habits and tendencies focusing on whether or not you're actually getting results. If you want to choose to intermittent fast, I would suggest you start with a 16 to 8 schedule. So you're eating for 16 hours in a day and then not eating at all for 8 hours, which would typically be your sleep schedule. And then you can slowly work your way up to 14 hours and 10 off, 12, 12, and then build your way up to probably 8 to 16. I wouldn't go any less than that. You don't really need to restrict your eating schedule to under 8 hours, but just start slow and ease your way into it. Okay, next we have the Atkins diet, or commonly known as the low carb diet. So the low carb diet is good because it's really good for weight loss. I mean, if you're eating less carbs, you're probably going to lose weight. It's also good because it is good at decreasing your hunger levels. So if you do this correctly, you are replacing the carbs you're missing with protein and with fat. So when you have adequate levels of protein and fat, your satiety goes up, or your hunger, so you're not as hungry. So those are the pros. The cons are low carb diet is essentially a better version of ketosis. So there still is a small risk of you going into that starvation mode where you would need your blood taken, and you need to be careful about doing activity because you might be weaker, might be more likely to pass out. The other issue with this diet is that it says that fruits and vegetables are bad in some instances because they are high carbs, and that really shouldn't be what you're worrying on. Fruits and vegetables are almost always going to be healthy and almost always something you want to include in your diet. They happen to be carbs. That's an apple and a carrot, pardon my bad drawing, but fruits and vegetables are carbs, and they're good for you because they have vitamins and minerals. So on this diet, you're not supposed to be eating fruits, bananas, carrots, and other high carb vegetables, which I don't think is necessarily the best thing for you, but whatever floats your boat. The tip I would have for this diet is to not get too sucked into the macros. There are many things that determine whether or not you're being healthy, and focusing only on the protein, carbs, and fats is not the best way to do that. And next, we have a low-fat diet. These are really, really common in the fitness nutrition industry. A lot of people think that fats are the problem to their health, and they're really not, but low-fat diets are good. Basically, low-fat diets are good for weight loss and for fat loss. Assuming that when you cut out the fats, you're replacing them with carbs and proteins of like a healthy, suitable range for you. The consequences of a low-fat diet are that they are pretty hard to adhere to, because when you think of what foods fat are, nuts, meats, fish, guacamole, all the good stuff, it's kind of hard to really stick with that. And then also a decrease in sex hormones, among other things. Fats help with testosterone and estrogen regulation. Additionally, fats provide vitamins for a lot of common body functions. So when you think of the fat-soluble vitamins, vitamins A, D, E, K, those are responsible for vision, bones, hair, nails, immune function. So if you aren't getting enough fats on a low-fat diet, something called a very low-fat diet, then you could have so many issues. So it's really important when you do a low-fat diet to be responsible with how you portion it out. A low-fat diet is defined as a diet that has between 20 to 35% of your full calories each day as being designated for fats. So I would advise that you stay within that range. If you go below 20%, that's called a very low-fat diet, and that's where you probably see some of these cons start to arise. So as long as you do a low-fat diet properly and have the proper macronutrient ratios, then you should just see pros in weight loss and fat loss, which is what everybody wants. Next, we have a low-energy diet or a calorie-restricted diet. And these diets are the best way to lose weight. They're the fastest way to lose weight is to just eat less. Low-calorie diets are ideal for people who are obese or for people who are suffering from health issues related to their weight, because it is the fastest way to lose weight. If you want to lose weight, just eat less. That's the general principle. A lot of people try this diet and it doesn't work for a variety of reasons, so I'm going to get into it. Basically, you need to make sure that you're portioning out your calories, proteins, fats, carbs, as well as you would anywhere. So on that side, it is a pro because you can eat as much as you want for proteins or carbs as long as you're still getting that number of calories that you need. There are a lot of cons to it though, because it's really hard to do this by yourself. It's hard to adhere to because you're going to be very hungry if you're eating in a restricted caloric deficits. You're also going to decrease your lean mass, probably your athletic performance, depending on how much less you're eating. And then again, you're going to be hungry. Depending on how much less you're eating, you could be very hungry. So a low-calorie diet is defined as anywhere between 800 to 12,000 or 1,200 calories each day. And that is not suitable for most people. It really is a very, very low number. I can never imagine eating that much for myself. I eat about 3,000 calories a day, and if you're trying to lose weight, I would not suggest just going straight into an 800 calorie consistent eating schedule. I talked about this in another video, but if you want to figure out how much you need to eat to lose weight, check totaldailyenergyexpenditure.com or just type that into Google and it will show you how much you need to be eating. I would say if you're going to do a low-calorie diet, just find the numbers that work for you and ease into it. Definitely ease into it. Figure out what works for you first and slowly reduce your numbers of calories until you get to the level you want to be at. But definitely be careful with this one. Okay, the next diet we're going to talk about is paleo, the Paleolithic diet. You've also probably heard of. It has a lot of traction in the modern media. Basically, the paleo diet comes from the foods that we've been exposed to for most of our human history. So you're only supposed to eat meat, fish, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And there are a lot of pros to this diet because those are all really high quality foods that provide a lot of nutrients and a lot of the good things that make you healthy. It's also really good for fat loss and for muscle preservation because you're still eating meats and nuts. You have high qualities of protein, and it's really beneficial for you in those senses. The main con for paleo is that it's unnecessarily restrictive. So, in addition to eating foods that have been exposed to for human history, you're supposed to not eat foods like grains, legumes, dairy, and processed foods. Processed foods are fine, but grains, legumes, and dairy are really important and should be included. Basically, the objection to the diet is that you should have grains, legumes, and dairy because they provide sources of fiber, micronutrients, and phytochemicals that are also really beneficial for your health. So it's a little bit too restrictive for most people, but if you were going to do a flexible paleo diet, then that would be really good for you. Okay, next we're going to talk about vegetarianism, one of the more popular diet trends now for multiple reasons that aren't related to physical health. The pros of vegetarianism are that it's good for blood glucose and for kind of cleaning up your internal organs and stuff. It's also good for your mental health. Again, this kind of connects to the ethical reasons for why people choose to be vegetarians. Cons, there could be many deficiencies depending on how correctly you portion your foods and what foods you choose to consume. The potential pitfalls of vegetarianism are protein deficiency, vitamin B12 deficiency, deficiency in omega-3 fatty acids, calcium, iron, and creatine. All of these are very important for you, and most of them come from meat, so it's no surprise this is a con. These are risks, though. They're not guaranteed. If you are a vegetarian, you can still make up all of those nutrients I listed in other forms. So between tofu, beans, lentils, fruits, vegetables, leafy green vegetables, there are many ways you can get the necessary nutrients. A lot of people choose to become vegetarians because they want to make a difference with the climate change and the environmental impacts that the meat industry has been doing. I completely agree with those sentiments, and I've been trying to eat less meat too. My tip for vegetarianism would be if you feel like it's something you want to try, something you want to see works for you, you should try something flexible in between that isn't all the way fully no meat. So there are pescatarians, there are lacto-ovovarians, I think, vegetarians, vegans. There are many stages in between that I feel like vegetarianism gets a negative stigma sometimes because it's seen as almost like an all or nothing endeavor. You can't eat meat at all and still pretend to be one of them. You know, there's kind of that negative stigma about that. But most vegetarians are a lot more flexible and a lot more understanding than that. So if you want to try to just reduce the amount of meat you're consuming and see how it feels for your mental and physical health, then try it, because I've been eating a little less meat and I feel better. I'm trying to work my way down there, but I understand it's hard. It's a challenge. Okay, we're on the top three, looking at the DASH diet. The DASH diet stands for the Dietary Approach to Stop Hypertension, and it's a really good assortment of foods that you can try. The pros of the DASH diet are it improves your cardiovascular health, it decreases your blood pressure, and it decreases your body fat. The cons are that it might be hard to adhere to. So in the DASH diet, you are supposed to consume more fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes, a moderate consumption of meats and low-fat dairy products, and almost no fats, processed foods, and sugars. So this is the more general understanding of good foods versus bad foods. If you're suffering from hypertension or anything associating with bad blood pressure or poor weight to height ratio maybe, this would be the diet to try. It's strict and you don't need to be as strict with it. That would be my tip to you. If you're gonna try DASH, be flexible with it, because you might go a little crazy only eating good foods and completely eliminating sugars and processed foods. But the results speak for themselves. DASH is a really beneficial diet in every sense of the word when it comes to health. Okay, the next diet we have is the high protein diet. This is one of the best diets as well because when your diet is mostly protein, it's really good for increasing muscle mass, improving your satiety, which, if I didn't already say, means hunger. So basically, you don't get as hungry when you're eating protein. It really fills you up. And it decreases your body fat, which goes along with preserving muscle mass. A high protein diet means having a diet that is over 25% of your total calories come from the protein. So that equals out to potentially 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. And one of the best things about a high protein diet is that there aren't really any consequences. So there was a study done over a 6-month period where people took up to 3.3 grams per kilogram of protein, so 3 times the excess amount, and they had no harmful effects, nothing on kidney function. They were all healthy individuals, and eating that much protein for that long did not negatively influence them, which is great for you. The con is that if you have a pre-existing kidney issue or condition, then if you eat that much protein, then it definitely will negatively impact you. So for people with pre-existing kidney conditions, a high-protein diet is not the diet for you. But for pretty much everybody else, it really is. There aren't any consequences if you do it poorly, so long as you're getting 25% of your calories from protein. And it's really good for your body composition, muscle mass, body fat, for feeling full, for feeling hungry. 10 out of 10 would recommend. The tip I would give to you if you're trying out a high protein diet is to evenly space out your protein throughout the day. So a lot of people think that you need to eat your protein right after you work out if you want to see the benefits of that. And there's truth to that. But if you're eating a lot of protein throughout the day, it's much better to kind of space it out in 4 equal portions or 3 equal portions at your meals. So if you're eating like 120 grams, because a gram per pound of body weight, you should probably eat around 40 grams at each of your 3 big meals instead of kind of just packing it all in at the end of the day after your workout, and it'll go down a lot easier. Okay, the final diet we're going to look at, the superior diet, the alpha diet, is the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet is based on traditional foods that people from Greece and Italy eat, and it's rich in monounsaturated fats. So surprisingly, the healthiest diet is rich in a type of fat. It's monounsaturated, which is the purest, healthiest form of fat. It's not saturated, it's not trans, and it is really heart healthy for you. Basically nuts, seeds, olive oils, these are the monounsaturated fats, along with fruits, vegetables, meats are all included in this diet, of course. And the pros are it's really good for your heart health. It's an increase in variety. There's so many types of food that you can eat on this diet. It is not restrictive at all, and it's a little restrictive. And there's a decrease in disease risk for almost every chronic disease that is associated with poor nutrition. So eating these heart healthy foods are really good for your internal health as well as your external health. And there aren't really any cons. Obviously, because there are 3 pros and 0 cons, you might be inclined to look at this diet, but it doesn't work for everybody because you might not like the foods I just listed. You might have allergies. What works for some doesn't work for everybody. So take this as you will. Mediterranean diet is one of the best, most commonly known healthy promoting diets out there. But if any of the ones listed above as either 2 through 10 seems more better suited for you, then by all means eat those. Okay, sorry for my poor handwriting, but this is a final chart kind of showing off the whole video in a nutshell. So if you want to compare these diets to each other, you can't really rank them 1 through 10. It's more just the great diets, the good diets, and the diets that can be good if you're smart about it. So up top, the Mediterranean, high protein, DASH, and vegetarian diets are all great, all have very little side effects if you do them poorly, except for vegetarianism, but again, there are obviously different factors that go into why that's great for you. The paleo, calorie restricted, and low fat diets are also very good and very good at getting you healthy. These are all effective diets, by the way. And intermittent fasting, low carb, and keto are also successful as well, so long as you do them appropriately and with the proper nutrients and food selections. Even though these are 1 and 2 and these are 9 and 10, in given scenarios, these will be much better for you than the ones up there. Everybody is different, so don't look at any of this as a must for you. Figure out what you want and experiment with all of them. If you're trying to gain weight, high protein diet might be the best for you. If you're trying to lose weight, calorie restricted might be the best for you. If you want to get onto a healthy schedule, intermittent fasting might be better for you. It all depends on the context of what you're trying to do. And I hope you found this video helpful, and please leave a like if you did, and I'll see you in the next one.